Now presenting Channeling Erik's Hour of Enlightenment.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Tuesday night show, Hour of Enlightenment, with our wonderful guest, Erik Medhus, and his voice, Kim Babcock. For you guys who are new to this program, Erik Medhus is my 21-year-old son who died a few years ago, and now he's here to help us navigate through our human experience. So we're going to have him talk a little bit about a subject, and then we'll take callers, and hopefully he will help every single one of them. Now, Kim, what would you like to tell us about yourself?
Sure. Welcome to the show, guys. First of all, I guess I'll kind of take a minute. I don't really take too much time to explain myself. I'm a medium. I'm working on doing some spiritual coaching, too, with you guys. I've been feeling more of a pull for that with you guys here lately. So nonetheless, though, it's always such an honor for me to be a voice for Erik. And, every time we do this, you guys seem to walk away in better shape, and that's what we do this for. Erik and I have teamed up to be, hopefully a beacon of light for you guys when you feel like you're going through something stressful or difficult. No matter what it is, Erik can hone in on your energy, just like you guys know he's going to call you out and give you guidance and advice to make life a little bit easier. So as a medium, I've teamed up with him and Elisa to bring you guys guidance and advice from the other side. You guys can find out more information about me at kimbabcock.net and about Erik and his journey at channelingerik.com. And as you guys know, in January we're going to be hosting a very special event in Houston. And you guys will have the chance to see Erik's home and see where this entire thing began for his entire family and his memorial site. So it's going to be really special. We're also going to do some workshops to help you guys achieve that spiritual growth, too. So it's going to be a really powerful weekend, and I hope you'll join us. You can find information.
And we're going to have a documentary filmmaker who apparently is very interested in the story, and he's going to come maybe a couple of days beforehand and film me, interview me, and then he's going to film the event as well. So that should be fun. So wear your makeup, okay? Dress nice. No, I'm kidding. You can look like a slob like me. It's no problem. All right, Erik, are you ready to rock and roll?
He's always ready to rock and roll. He's been, you know what, I don't know if it's the supermoon or what it's been this week, but all week long with these Channeling Erik sessions that I've done, he has felt so different. He has felt,
really?
You know what it's like? Yeah, he's felt really refreshed to me, like really refreshing and refreshed himself. Like he feels like a wave of new light, new energy. He seems different, but in a good, vibrant way. So it's been interesting, and some of the information he's been sharing this week kind of left me and a client speechless. After the session, we were like, whoa, that's a trip. So
what's that about, Erik? What does the supermoon have an effect on your energy?
He said no, it had an effect on Kim's energy. He's like looking at me like, he goes, duh, don't you get it? But I try to be like, I'm too skeptical. I'm always like, oh, it's just another full moon. It's great. Yeah, yep, beautiful. But it doesn't affect my energy. But I don't know. I guess it does. I try to not stereotype into that stuff. But yeah, and Erik's going wah wah wah. He's like, shut up. So.
Oh, Erik,
he's easily annoyed with me, and when he's annoyed, he just starts mocking me.
So guess what? For this week's radio show, I know that there's a lot of angst over this election and the results. Some of you guys are really happy, and some of you guys are horrified. And I actually asked Erik like 30 questions about the upcoming Trump presidency to see if it would help people allay some anxieties. But, Erik, I want you to talk about this post-election angst and how to cope with it. So the floor is yours.
He says, the floor is mine. He says, the floor is yours, Mom. He says, we'll share the floor.
Oh.
So he's like, he is, man, it's good to see this side of him. I feel like I haven't seen this side of him for a while. He's like, dudes, listen. He takes a real serious approach. His hair looks nice. I know this sounds really strange, but just to kind of personify it a little bit for you guys, he smells nice. He's cleaned up. His jeans are all, nice looking. He just looks like he's ready for a date or something. Like, you'd see someone get kind of cleaned up and refreshed and ready to go. That's how he seems. But he's addressing you guys with intensity, and he's like, all right, dudes, listen. He's like, I don't give a shit what side of the fence you're on. He said, with the election and the outcome. There's a lot of stress among a lot of people for a lot of reasons. So we're going to talk about that shit and help you guys figure out how to get rid of it. He says, first of all, you need to own your shit. He throws his arms wide open, and he's like, it is what it is. So you need to learn how to cope. Coping skills, coping mechanisms are the key to happiness, he says. And he has such a weird tone with his voice. But he says...
Like what?
Real lispy. Like, he takes...
Okay,
he's like,
got it.
coping is the key to happiness, people. Like, he's just getting real silly.
Okay.
Real animated. But he says, guys, no matter what side of the fence you're on, you have to be willing to take responsibility for your actions and your emotions. Your need to react is what's going to basically give birth to your own anxiety, he says.
And create anxiety for others, especially those who are doing violent protests and things like that. It affects just not only yourself, but other people too.
Exactly. And he's going, he makes me feel like such an idiot. He's like, and for people like him that have no fucking clue and could give a shit less, he goes, create anxiety for people like that too, that, I just try to keep a healthy balance and stay neutral as I can, because it's just not my place to be involved with politics. But, my mom gets on a rant. She starts in, and I'm like, oh, my God, stop. I can't even listen to it. And I just and then me and my mom are arguing, and it's like, oh, geez. So he says, pay attention to what you give energy to, what you give life to, because you're creating your own misery and your own stress because you have to react. And your anticipations that are like hanging out with your fear, coming from fear, basically, he says, are, okay, this is what he says. He says, your anticipations that come from your fear are what add to the collective, too, on the bigger scale. And that is just going to snowball and fester the stress that you're already feeling at a personal level. You're just adding to it on a personal level and on a bigger scale. So go ahead and let that shit go, he says, because what's done is done. Now it's time to cope. And the ways that you do that, he says, first of all, you have to be responsible for your behavior. He says, Mom, even when people think they are taking responsibility for their emotions, they're not really. He says, you really have to acknowledge what you're contributing. He says, if you're being motivated by fear to do something, by spite, by anger, frustration, whatever it is.
Like those nasty Facebook posts, guys. Go ahead.
He says, listen to what your motivations are before you say or do something, because if you're motivated in love and light to spread goodness or higher vibration, he's like, that's great. But if you're motivated by fear, anger, jealousy, whatever it is, then you're just making it worse, no matter what it is. So
of course.
He says, here's some coping strategies. He says, a lot of you are having a hard time because you feel, he wants to talk about emotions, and he says, a lot of you are having a hard time because you feel helpless or like powerless. Again, he says, no matter what side of the fence you're on, because there's still questions looming either side of the fence. So
yeah, there's so much uncertainty. That doesn't help.
Yeah, and he says, here's what I want you to do. No matter where you're at with this, he says, at least hear out your own emotions. Don't react to them, and let that be your motivation to go do something. But at least hear them out and honor them, process them. So here's why. Let's say, for example, you are pissed off. Okay, well, pissed off is a reaction, essentially. It's an emotion. But here's one thing here's like the polarity I want you to see in it. He says, you can allow yourself to be pissed off, but don't fucking stay that way. He says, at least being pissed off, you have some sense of power in that. Maybe you're fucking over the moon, he says. He's like on a rant, if you can't tell already.
He's on a rant.
So he says maybe you are over the moon about the election results or the future of your country. But whatever it is, at least acknowledge your emotions and that you don't feel powerless. So if someone has to be angry, it's cool. Let them be angry. Let them be frustrated. Don't try to talk them out of it or convince them why they shouldn't be, because it's better than feeling hopeless or powerless. And he's like,
that's true.
I know. He's like, save it. There are people, he's like, I already know. There are people that feel completely hopeless and are freaking the fuck out, he says.
Yeah, like Cher.
Oh, my goodness.
She's moving to Jupiter. She must have no hope.
What was that?
Like Cher. She's moving to Jupiter. She said she would if he won. So that's a woman with no hope.
He says there's a lot of people like that are really concerned, but he says they're anticipating their fears. They're anticipating the worst and allowing their fears to overcome them. So the way that you can cope with that, first of all, is be here now. You can only do what you can do right now. When you cave to your fears and you give way to them, it's because you're not living in the now. When you become overwhelmed with all the fucking what-ifs and uncertainties, there ain't nothing you can do about it anyway, he says. So just relax, take a breath, and accept where you are right now.
So you're like in the future. Your mind your consciousness is in the future, I guess, huh?
He goes, yeah. And speaking of that, he's like riled up. He goes, yeah, and speaking of that, how can you possibly manifest anything you want if your consciousness isn't in the now? He's like, that's the most absurd thing I've ever heard or thought or seen. He's like, but I know. In the human form, it can be an illusion. It can be difficult to see or recognize. So bring your... Sorry, he's going so fast, you guys. Bear with me. He says, bring your consciousness back.
Erik.
He says, collect it in the present moment as much as you can. That way, you are more powerful to manifest the experiences you want. But let that not be in reaction to your fears, he says. And your intentions and your motivations not be driven by fear. He goes, I promise, if it is, it'll all be fucked up. He says it'll be a difficult experience. That's what he means by effed up. It'll be difficult.
Yeah.
He says, man, he is just full of himself tonight. He says, I never told you following your intuition would be easy. Following your intuition, following your gut, and allowing yourself just to accept what is going to always bring you to and through what you need for your highest growth, or for that best potential anyway. But he says people whine and complain that they follow their intuition to do something or to cope. And then look what happened. It didn't turn out right. This happened. It was so hard. It's like, well, maybe that was needed for you to grow. So he's just on a rant tonight.
That's true.
He's fired up. But he says, first off, you guys have to take responsibility for the way you're reacting. If you continue to react and hate, you're just contributing to that which you're bitching about. He says... you
can't fight fire with fire.
Yeah, exactly. And he says, says, I know you've heard it before, but why don't you listen? He says, you have to be the change you want to see. But if you bitch about the changes that you don't see, but you yourself don't embody it, your bitching kind of falls silent. He's like, sorry, folks, I just got to be real with you. So hope this doesn't come off too abrasive, but he's just really hoping to encourage you guys to take responsibility for the way you do react, even if it is like overly joyful in other people's faces that are uncomfortable with the outcome.
Yeah,
you know,
of course.
Be respectful to both sides. It is what it is, and the more you guys can accept change and accept things being different than your expectations, the better you're going to be able to cope, he says.
Is our country going to be okay?
Yes. He says that is up to each and every one of you. He takes a big, slow bow when he says that. He says, this is where I hand it off to each and every one of you. But he says, he's just kind of getting into talking about the collective consciousness of different locations and how your personal psyche affects that. So be mindful of where you let your mind run off to. If you think, oh no, this is going to happen, and then that's going to happen, and then the whole world's going to turn to shit. He's like mocking like different thought processes, and he says, if you don't master the thoughts, the mind, if you can't shut that shit up, he says, I encourage you to at least start trying. Get control over the mind and the thoughts, and silence them for a while.
Well, do you think we should at least try to send prayers and maybe even go so far as to send love to President-elect Trump? You know, it's certainly a lot better than hate and fear.
He says, before we can even do that, Mom, we have to accept it in our hearts first. Because if we are, I don't like Trump and I can't believe this outcome. He says you have to be standing on the platform of love and accepting it before you can even send it or give it. So, he says to shift your awareness, of course, into your heart, and just practice accepting what is. Now, what do I mean by that? He says, okay, what were your expectations? Well, I thought this was going to happen and it didn't, or I was hoping if this person got in that we'd have these changes coming up, and that's not going to happen now. So begin to accept the way things may be different. As long as you can keep that playing field before you open without definition, you'll be at the best place to cope with no matter what happens, with anything that happens.
Okay.
So basically, if you don't predetermine with your emotions the experience, then you're giving yourself the best opportunity to cope. Yes, he says send love and prayers. Pray for yourself first.
There we go. That's good. Anything else before we take callers?
He's being a mushball. He says, I love you guys, and I just want to give you my best, and sometimes my best is really blunt.
Well, that's good. That's why we love you, and I love you so much, Erik. Well,
he says, I love you, Mom.
We're going to take callers. I want to let you guys know that please limit your questions to just one per person so that we get as many people on the call as possible. I also want to give a shout-out to liveparanormal.com for giving us this venue, this opportunity to host our radio show to help, hopefully, so many people. So let's talk to somebody from the 602 area code. Let's see who we got here. Hi.
Hi.
Hey, this is Elisa. Welcome to the show. What's your first name and where are you calling from?
Jill from Phoenix.
Hey, Jill from Phoenix. What you got for Erik?
Oh, my God. I have a couple of questions. I'm only going to ask one, I promise. I'm not going to do the higher self thing. It's been done. So, I have been wanting to ask Erik this question for months. So, here it is.
Okay, fire away.
Okay. One night, my daughter and I were outside, and it was dark, and we were out on the patio, and by the pool, and we live on a preserve lot, so it's just a mountain. And all of a sudden, her German Shepherd bolted towards the preserve, and when her dog started barking and alerting towards that section, all of a sudden, this light came up from just there, and it wasn't like a flashlight. It was a light like it had an inside to it, it was emanating like a light.
Wow.
And then the dog started barking even more, and it's as if it was frightened, and it warbled off to the right and then disappeared. And I wanted to ask Erik, what was it?
Wow, what a fascinating experience. So what's up with that, Erik?
Very cool.
The aliens?
He puts his hands up in the air, like if you were to say, freeze, put your hands up. He has his hands up. He says, don't look at me. So,
no?
First of all, he's like, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. No, he's actually saying that this was no alien, nothing like that. He keeps saying grandmother. He makes me feel like there's a grandmother involved that...
My mom? Because my daughter was
so you got a visit from spirit.
This is interesting, though. He makes me feel like this isn't the first occurrence.
No, second.
Of this happening. So, your daughter was with you, is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. Because this wasn't the first occurrence, so he keeps saying grandmother. So there must be a special, obviously a connection between you and your mother, but a special connection between your mother and your daughter.
Well, I don't know, Kim. My mom died when I was 2 years old, and I had a reading with you, Kim, and she told me through Erik and you that she's been with me since she died when I was 2 years old. Hasn't left me as long as I was. So it might have hit my mom.
Yeah, and that's what when he talks about this special connection, even if they never met, they didn't know each other, your daughter and her, that has no bearing on her relationship with you and your daughter. So
of course not.
They still maintain those loving bonds as family. So, but he makes me feel like that's who it was. He puts it like he's like, don't look at me. It wasn't me. Don't blame it on me. So
I didn't think it was Erik, but I did think it was like an ET.
Yeah, no, he says that this was
that
like...
was creepy.
Yeah, this was a family member. This was...
It didn't even feel creepy at the time. My daughter and I just looked at each other like, Lishy said, was that an angel? And I said, I don't know.
Well, when you said that it had like an inside, like the light had an inside, he said source. Like you saw its source. He just kept saying source.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So, very cool. When you see those things, when those things happen, I always encourage people, give as much gratitude as you can because it grounds their energy and it just encourages them.
We looked at each other like, oh, how cool is that? We like high-fived each other. We were like on time. We were like on cloud nine.
That is so special. Wow.
How old is your daughter?
She's 23.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
Wow,
cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. That's amazing.
Thank you, Kim. Thanks, Elisa. Thanks, Erik.
You're welcome.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for calling in.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
God,
Very
I want an
neat.
experience like that. That sounds so cool.
Yeah, very neat.
But it seems like they weren't afraid when they saw it, so that speaks also to it being a loved one.
Yeah,
instead of some
absolutely.
creepy.
And when you don't react in fear, you're going to have a better experience.
But I do like your idea of just showing gratitude. Like, hey, thanks for the heads up. Thanks for the visit.
last night when I was doing that class online, I was hearing stuff all over the house, saw a bright flash that was so startling. I almost went to fear, but I didn't. I was just like, okay, hey, thank you. Home alone, out,
good.
in the middle of nowhere. But, always give gratitude because it encourages that bond, for sure.
That's a really good point. All right, let's go to somebody from the 630 area code. Keep clicking buttons and they don't work. And Mercury is not even in retrograde. Hi there, how are you doing? Welcome to the show. Are you there?
Who is it?
Hey, it's Elisa. What's up?
Hello?
Hi.
Hi.
What's your first name and where are you calling from?
Joanne from Naperville, Illinois.
Welcome.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Do you have a question for Erik?
Well, yes, I'd like to know about my higher self.
Sure. Okay. Generally, when we bring through higher selves, we'll bring through a couple messages for you to kind of focus on some things in your life to bring you to a better version of yourself, or a version that, kind of focus on a few things to help yourself out. The first thing being referenced is your health right away. I don't know what's going on habitually in your life, but it seems like there's some habits that you need to address because they may be contributing to your health in a not so good way. Whether it's eating habits or, I'm not sure, but your higher self is encouraging you to reevaluate your health and do what you can to optimize it, take better care, but it's in relation to habits. So that's one point that your higher self wants to make. Also, there's strong reference to resolving a verbal, verbally resolving a difference. I don't want to say like an argument or a disagreement. It's just like having differences with somebody, but it kind of feels like it's lingering or something. So I'm not sure who this is with in your family or friends, but your higher self is encouraging you.
I think my youngest daughter has an issue, but she won't talk about it.
Okay. I wonder if that's why it's like it feels like it just lingers, like it just continues and continues. So it's time for you to kind of speak up and verbalize in that area, vocalize your feelings, express yourself and how you feel in that area, so that at least you've turned over every stone that you could to try to do what you can from your end. So, and if she's unwilling,
but
that's
so scary.
okay.
It's so scary to be emotionally honest with somebody you love, but communication is always the best path. And what better time with Thanksgiving coming up to do that, to open your heart up to somebody who you might have a disagreement with or a conflict with, etc.
Yeah, exactly. And even if it's just that you guys aren't on the same page and don't see things the same way, your higher self is encouraging you to at least be honest with yourself and who you are with her. So if it's like, look, this is how I feel, I just need to let you know, you could do what you want after that, whatever. But being honest with yourself in that, I think, is really going to make you feel a little bit freer, kind of answer some questions, and also contribute to your health in a good way. So understand what what happens at that level of the throat. If you're really holding back.
She's been carrying this for a long time, and she won't talk to me about it. It's issues with me.
And that's okay, because remember that if she has issues with you, she still has some things that she needs to work out. But you can't carry that. Those are her decisions. So no matter what, you can't carry that, and that's a really hard cord to cut, I promise you.
Yeah, when you carry somebody else's burdens, that can contribute to illness, I'm sure.
Exactly, and that's what your higher self was getting ready to say, to think about the level of the chakra that, this represents the throat area. So if you have issues with the thyroid, the throat, the sinuses, everything in that area, acid reflux, anything like that can be stemming from holding back in this way. So no matter what, at least be honest with yourself so that you can sort of set those burdens free. So I hope that helps.
I hope that
it
helps.
Does. Thank you.
Oh,
it does. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You bet. Good
Bye.
night. Okay. Let's go for somebody from the 865 area code. Hello, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, too. What's your first name and where are you calling from?
Beth from Tennessee.
Oh, Tennessee, one of the prettiest states in the country.
Oh, I agree. I'm lucky. I'm grateful.
Good.
I was just curious. I guess it's one question, but it's kind of a complex question. Like, I've got a negative blood type, and I was curious, like, where, if I came from here or not, if that makes sense.
What do you mean? You're like O negative or something?
Yeah, it's just a RH negative blood type, and I was just curious if, like...
Okay, got it. Okay. What do you think, Erik?
If that has anything to do with where I came from or where I came from.
He says these blood types, he says when we look at, he's getting all down scientific on this one. He says when we look at blood types all the way down to the DNA level, like he's showing me the ladder structure of the DNA, I guess. I don't know what you call it. But he says the makeup here has everything to do with what you've been exposed to energetically, like energy patterns, what you've been exposed to time and time again. Now, when he says that second part, time and time again, that's reference to past lives, other lives, rather. So he says that people with these blood types have been, it's an energy pattern. It's not that you're an alien or you're a freak. It's just a different type. So don't think anything.
Oh, you know she can get her freak on.
He actually wants to talk to you about a whole different topic, but that's up to you if you're open for that. But he's just talking to you.
Yeah, I mean, like on a personal level, what would that mean to me?
The blood type?
I guess about my past energetic experiences.
This is what he sees important to talk to you about right now. He's actually talking about you being exposed to negativity, and it's almost kind of like I feel like you walk in this cloud of anticipation, almost like walking around introverted or kind of like expecting, like walking around in fear, basically, but fear doesn't describe it well enough. It's kind of like...
Expecting the negative blood type, expecting the negative?
No, I think the blood type is just a manifestation of, like, prolonged exposure to, like, abuse, whether it's verbal, physical, emotional. So it's kind of like, you know how people that have overcome abuse, they still walk around with, like, the insecurities and almost like looking over their shoulder all the time. That's more what he wants to address with you. So he says it's important to, but it's something too about the past. Like it's, I don't know what you've been through in your childhood or in your past.
Are you talking about Erik? Erik, are you talking about when you say past? Are you talking about other lives or the past of this current life?
This current life right now. He says. He makes me feel like you've been through some pretty. These are his words. Pretty stout emotional obstacles, and I feel like it's almost like fear of that coming back or repeating itself. Neglect and abandonment are some issues that you're dealing with internally, whether it's neglect of self, abandoning self, or having been abandoned by others. Those are two that he names. But it's like these emotions have you like in ball and chains. Like he's showing these heavy weights. That energy, Mom, he says, is is what contributes to changing, like, the DNA structure, which correlates to your blood type. And he goes, blah, blah, blah.
Well, what can she do about it?
He says I want everybody to listen to this. Anytime you're going through anything negative or you're strapped in your fears or anxieties, meditation's great, yes, but it's not because you're trying to escape something, because then it's you're using meditation like an addiction, almost like, oh man, I don't know if I want to say that. He goes, you might as well drink a beer, because you're not using it in the right way. Meditation is for, like, you use your intentions through meditation, no matter what kind it is, to transmute that energy into something of a higher vibration. So for you, if it's the fear of the past, go to that memory that you're afraid of repeating itself and transmute it. Just work on seeing it better, transmuting it energetically in the way that it affects you. Assert your power over it. There's so many things that you can do to take your power back from those situations.
Well, like in my case, I had horrible abuse from my parents throughout my life, even until the day they died, really. And but the way I was able to heal from early on was to see it as a positive. Like, there are gifts there that they gave me through that abuse. I learned how to be assertive. I learned how to be more nurturing. I learned how to be a better mother, to like not be like they were. And so to just basically see the lesson in the suffering so that you can embrace it, be grateful for it, and move on.
Yeah, he says, Mom, you used the silver lining as the vessel to transmute what could have been really nasty energy. So he's encouraging you guys to do the same, and you too, Beth, to look at where your fears and anxieties are, and where, because it's almost like you're really carrying a lot of burdens, and let that be transmuted by looking at the silver lining, and so that just in the level of energy and the way that he sees it, he's showing that that's what contributes to your makeup and then manifests into you as a human. So, but he says...
so look for the lesson. Look for the valuable lesson in whatever you suffered from in the past. I hope that helped you.
I hope so, too.
It does. It just... Thank you.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate everything you guys are doing.
You're
welcome. A lot to think about. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks for calling.
Thanks.
Bye,
Have a good night.
You
Bye.
too. All right. Let's take one. We could all learn from that last call.
I know, and it's interesting
Amazing
because
call.
I've even seen people that know when they're letting the past affect them negatively, but they don't want to change it. They want to be angry. And just kind of like he was saying earlier, well, let yourself be angry because at least you're not, like, helpless, feeling hopeless. Yeah, like at least you don't feel stuck and hopeless. So really.
All right, we got somebody from the 720 area code. Welcome to the show. Are you there? Hello?
I don't think they're with us.
It. Well, oh, wait, did we miss it? Hello? Oh, I guess they went to the bar for a quick beer. I don't know. But we'll take one from the 626 area code. Hi there.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. What's your first name?
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yes, I can hear you. What's your first name?
Okay. Sarah.
Welcome,
Hi,
Sarah.
Where are you calling from?
Los Angeles.
Oh, cool.
Okay. Well, do you have a question for Erik?
I do. And actually, you might find this interesting as well, being a doctor. I've had a chronic pain issue in my right flank area for the past 8 years. It came on very suddenly over the course of 10 days. Like I know the exact day that it started. And my doctors have been absolutely mystified about it. They've been able to sort of treat it symptomatically, but they have no idea where it's coming from or why it's there. And I was wondering if Erik had an idea about that.
Ooh, maybe it's some other life-related thing, like maybe you were stabbed in the flank with a spear by a Roman or something, but I don't know. I'm just guessing here, but go for it, Erik. What do you think? What's this all about?
This is cool. He's actually answering this, and he's offering information that I've never heard before, so this is pretty neat. He's rubbing his hands together, you know, like when you're outside in the cold and you rub your hands together to keep them warm and you blow on them. Like, he that's his response when he's like, oh, yeah, I love this question.
Great.
So he says, I want you to think about this for a minute. He says, everything is energy, and the emotional ties that we have at a subconscious level may not manifest. So with that being said, he makes me feel like this is related to a past life, and you're not conscious to it. That's why it's not physically manifesting. He says when you're more conscious, he said, and it's so interesting how he shifts back and forth because he'll address Mom and then he'll talk to you. But anyway, he says when you're subconscious to it, Mom, he says you don't, or it doesn't manifest like it does. For example, like if it's
in a way,
something
diagnose it. It doesn't manifest in something that would show up on an X-ray or CAT scan or whatever, right?
Right. If it's related to a past life, it's most oftentimes going to be subconscious. And if it's something that's conscious, that's when you'll see the physical manifestation of it really affect your health. So both can manifest symptoms, but both may not manifest like an actual,
actual signs.
Yeah, actual something palpable or something that you could pick up with imagery. But so he makes me feel like this is linked to a past life. He goes, now we could get into the type of injury and all of that, but it's the more important area to look at is the emotion associated with it. He kind of softens his energy, and he goes, and this is an emotion of hopelessness, like we were just talking about. I feel like there was injury sustained that you and your family were going through a lot of trauma. It literally feels like raid, like your home has been invaded. You sustained an injury because of that, and kind of watching your house be torn apart and your family be harmed. So there's strong, deep emotional ties with this injury from another life, and that's something that you've carried and you continue to carry in your subconscious.
Okay.
Now, he says you don't have to go see a hypnotherapist, and you don't have to go see an energy healer. You can do it yourself. He says, just open up and trust what you hear. Like if you guide yourself through meditation, just trust what you hear or what you see, and allow yourself to release it back to that life or wherever you need to release it to. But you don't have to carry it.
Now, aren't there meditation tapes you can get on iTunes and such that help with past life? And I hate to say past life because we know this.
I know. He corrects me every time. He's like, other lives.
That will help you progress to these other lives and explore them?
Absolutely. He says because, and nothing against hypnotherapists, because they definitely have their place, but he says if you go to a hypnotherapist, you're giving your power away. So the best lessons realized and the best healing that occurs is self-induced and self-realized. So only you have the true power to transmute that which is you. And he's raising one eyebrow. He's like, does that make sense?
That does.
So,
got it.
I hope that helps.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for calling.
Have a great night.
You too.
You too.
All right. Thanks.
Gosh, I just had a feeling it was something related to another life. I don't know.
Really
all right, well, let's see if we can squeeze in a couple more. We got one from the 850 area code. Hello, how are you?
I'm doing fine.
That's good. What is your first name, and where are you calling from?
Mary.
Hi, Mary.
Phoenix Springs, Florida.
Awesome.
Oh, beautiful place. So what would you like to ask Erik?
I was wondering what maybe my higher self has to say about my future and what my mission is.
Sure. He wants to, okay, so Erik is he's kind of going to play the mediator back and forth between your higher self and him. But first of all, he says, let's talk about your right now, because that's better than your future. That will determine your future anyway. So then he kind of like steps back and allows your higher self to come in. Let's talk about purpose first, because that's what I keep hearing things about. In regards to your purpose, I feel like you have had, I'm just going to say it how I hear it, I feel like you've had enough of giving yourself away and giving to others, to where it's finally like, like I got to take a breath and do something for myself. It's not bad to do for others, but if it begins to be at your own expense, that's when you got to draw the line and really start to work on yourself. So, when we look at your purpose, it's for you. Your higher self is talking about finding the boundaries, like the fine lines between knowing yourself, knowing what's needed on the self level, and being able to extrovert your efforts as well to others. But it seems like it's been others for a long time. Now it's time to reverse that and start focusing on you. When we talk, and then I think, as you make that change and shift your focus to your best interest, that's what determines your future, because you become more present with yourself, and that's what determines your future. As far as giving you a few tidbits of insight, you're going to see a change in your health status, your higher self says, but it feels like things become easier. I don't know if you're, taking medication right now for something or what this means, but
yes.
It seems like you go a level up, like the vibration goes up, things become easier, and medications are less needed. I have no idea what that means to you, but your higher self is showing that your health status becomes better and feels more manageable. There's something about your mobility. Yeah, there's something about your mobility too. I don't know if your mobility is affected or dependent, but I see that that too is going to become more manageable or easier.
Well, does she have to do something special to get there, to get to that place where things are easier, or will it just happen on its own? Will it happen because she's going to stop giving all her emotional resources away?
You got it. Yep. And when you said, does she have to do something special, her higher self just said, yep, become present with herself. And that's when the more present you are with yourself, your vibration naturally aligns higher, raises. And so illnesses and ailments aren't so intense or, begin to dissolve. So the more present you become with yourself, the more consciously awake and aware you are with and of yourself, the more you're going to see ease, especially with health and mobility. So
and less focus on everybody else, because you're no good to everybody else if you don't take care of yourself, girl.
I've always been that way, though.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that you're selfish. I mean, it's great to do for others, but you have to do equally for yourself too, because then you begin, like Elisa said, to give away your emotional resources, and that's when you carry ailments. And two, just another little tidbit. I have no idea where this comes in, but if you tend to be clumsy, that too is a sign, I guess, or a symptom of somebody who's not well centered within themselves. You know, if you give too much externally, if you're clumsy, if you stub your toe all the time or run into the wall or trip,
that's
what have
me.
you, align more with, or try, I guess, to align more into the present moment, and hopefully some of that will go away. So I hope that helps.
I hope that
definitely.
For you. Good.
Awesome. I thank y'all so much, and thank you, Erik.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sweetie. Bye. All right, let's take one more call from the 832 area code. Hey there, how are you?
Hey, guys, how are you guys?
Hi,
Doing
welcome.
Good. How are you?
I am blessed. Thank you guys so much. I wanted to remind Kim, too, if a session comes available, let me know. I talked to you on social media like day before yesterday, so just FYI.
But what's
okay.
your name? And where are you calling from?
My name is Val, and I'm calling from Houston.
I knew it, that 832 area code. Hello, H-Town, buddy.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting you guys in January, too, for the event. So, super excited.
Hey, you need to join us on our little get-togethers we have. Have you been to one?
No, this is going to be my first one. I just recently started tuning into channeling Erik, like, maybe the last week or two, and I've been, like, tuned in. I've learned so much. So, thank you guys so much.
Well, girl, email
awesome.
me, and I'll put you on the list to remind people when we get together with all the Houston folks. We have so much fun. It is so freaking incredible. So my email address is emedhouse@gmail.com, and just let me know that you want to be on the little list for me to call out for that.
Okay, I will. We're actually friends on Facebook. You don't even know it, but we're friends on Facebook. So I'll let you. I'll send you an email. That's awesome.
Sounds good.
So. Yeah, so I have a question, of course, for Erik. My question is I was wanting to know if you could bring in my higher self. I had a question about relationships. I've recently, it's actually going to be a year now that I've had a divorce, and of course I'm starting to date. So I'm just curious if I will find, my soulmate, or what does that look like for me?
Sure. It's interesting because when you first started talking, he kept saying the words over and over. He's holding his hands like right on his sternum, like his lower sternum, right where the xiphoid process is. Come on, Dr. Medhus, did I get that right? Is that what that's called down there?
Yeah, you did. The pit
oh my
of the
God,
stomach.
it's been forever.
Right at the pit of the stomach.
Like, yeah, right down where the ribs kind of come together or part, whatever. So he's holding his hands right there, and he keeps saying cope, and he's saying it very, very passionately and compassionately. So, first of all, he just wants to touch on lightly for you to look at the ways that you've coped with your past and what you've gone through, because I think in that, when you take time to reflect, it seriously, to me, based on what he's showing, feels like looking at a whole other person. I don't even know you and know what you've been through, but he says that it's like looking at a whole new person. So he's just acknowledging growth, like you've been through and come through a lot.
Yes.
And
a lot of that has to do with me really watching, listening to the YouTube videos, watching you guys, and because a lot of times I was pointing at my marriage and, my ex-husband, but then I really had to focus on myself and kind of go within me.
Good
see
job.
How I can develop and grow. So, yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, that's awesome, because that's truly what it takes to be able to cope with those major life changes. So in that, when you take time to look and reflect at who you've become, we're always becoming, we're always changing. So
yeah,
he says, you already know what you want and what you're going to get. He's kind of laughing when he says that. He says that you're pretty determined with like what you want, and you're one of those people that like you'll work hard till you get it. So he says you don't have to ask me when you begin. He calls. I just love him when he says this. He calls you a master manifester. It just sounds funny when he says it, but because when you get your mind fixated on something, you don't stop until you achieve it, even though it might take you some time. So understand that drive in yourself, too, when it comes to dating.
Okay, we only have like 1 more minute before I run into the other show. Just letting you know. Sorry.
Okay, he says keep your heart open, keep your mind open, keep space inside for growth, for new things, like new types of people, and I think you'll be happy. But he says you already know what you want and you're going to get it. He's just kind of laughing. Like he says, I have no place to answer this for you. So I hope that makes sense to you.
I get what he's saying. I got you, Erik. I know exactly what he's saying.
He says, I got you, girl. So thanks so much for calling.
Thank you, guys. I look forward to seeing you guys in January.
I'll see you soon,
you,
okay?
Alisa.
Yeah,
good. And guys, thank you so much. Love you too. Aww. Thank you guys so much for joining us. This show has been amazing. I've learned so much myself. And don't forget to reach out to Kim if you need anything, kimbabcock.net. And, of course, channelingerik.com. Erik is spelled with a K. And we will talk at you next Thursday. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Have a good night, guys. Thanks for listening.
Erik, I love you.
He says, I love you, Mom. Good night.
Night.